One of the things I hear really often is, if it works, do it. I disagree. Hey, what's up? I'm Ken. This is kenfuTV, and each week release videos in the martial arts, philosophy, technique, training, that sort of thing. If you like it, subscribe and share this with people if you would. Comment down below if you've got questions or things that you want to add to this conversation. Maybe even make reaction video, post your own YouTube video with your thoughts and feelings on what I'm talking about. But today I'm talking about generalizing, talking about just because something does work does not mean that you should do it. That's a very opposite sentiment to what a lot of people look at when they look at the martial arts. Does it work? Can you do it? Is it functional? Those are important, and I'm not saying that you should ignore that. What I'm saying is that I'm seeing a lot of generalizing. I'm seeing a lot of looking at particular movements and drilling into, well, this movement could do this. This movement could do that. Biomechanically, it does this. And I don't disagree. It does. If you're matching those things, if you're looking at the way the motion is and the way the arms move and the legs move and the hips move, we all have the same number of legs and arms, and they all point the same directions and all of that. So there's similar ways that we're going to come into things. Sure, that's fine. But I have to consider the art. I have to consider my goals. I have to consider my approach. If I do karate is percussive. It's going to prioritize striking. There's lots of grappling, there's lots of throwing, there's lots of things, and I love those things personally. But if I look at every movement as to just what could this be, and I don't apply what is my priority, what does this style, then I might branch out and not really be doing my style or my art anymore. Now I'm just doing anything I want and calling it karate. I think the arts need to grow, but I think there were principles, there were a goal, a specific thing that was meant to be approached. For karate, that was civilian self-protection. There's the ways that they went about it. Some of them were based environmentally or on their culture, but there were things that they went to. There's a lot of different arts. I practice a few of them, the Filipino martial arts and jiu-jitsu, both Japanese and Brazilian jiu-jitsu. You've got things like kobudo for weapons. You've got aikido and judo and boxing and karate and taekwondo and all of these things. I believe that they're separate for a reason, and usually that reason is either the goal or the approach that the person or persons that put this together were looking at. When somebody is looking at the idea of how to compete in a ring, how to test their martial arts against each other, then it becomes, look at boxing. Boxing changed. It had a lot of things in it that were kind of stripped away as it became a focused sport, a very specific skill set, which is an incredibly powerful skill set and an absolute beauty to watch. But there are things that aren't there anymore. There are things that we do. I mean, it didn't always wear gloves. Sometimes they used to throw and do different things like that. This stuff was there, but it changed because the goals changed. And so as you explore your arts, as you look at, could this technique do this? Is this something this could do? Do explore it. Do try to understand what it's doing and why it's there. But also recognize and take the time to look at, does it match my goals though? Is this effective for what I'm trying to accomplish? Does this match the priorities outlined in the principles of the art that I do, that I'm trying to apply it to? If it doesn't, maybe where does this apply? What art maybe makes better use of this because of their principles and their approach? Just because it exists doesn't mean that it's the right answer in that context. So just establish your context. Continue to explore. But make sure that you're not watering things down so much that you lose sight of the principles that you're trying to understand. I'm a very principle-based learner and thusly a principle-based teacher. Understanding the principles of what you're trying to accomplish is huge. And if you lose sight of that, you'll find yourself wandering. And I get it. Not all who wander are lost, but there's a stronger potential to become lost while you wander. What do you think? Do you think that anything goes in any martial art, or do you think that you should be more specific and really drill down? Do you think you should generalize and that one motion can be any motion? One tool can become any tool? Or do you think that I'm better to have a toolbox full of specific tools that do each job really, really well, rather than one tool that I just seem to keep finding new ways to use? That's up to you. hit those comments and let's talk about it. What is up? Ken from the future. Last week, we asked the martial community, will it blend? You guys had a lot to say, so let's hit a few of them. There's quite a few, and some of them are really long and really well thought out, really well put together. I hope that you guys go look through those and read those and continue the conversation that started over on that last video. So first up, Argus Floyd says, Buddha was like baking, even though the ingredients and the measurements are the same, no one's pancakes taste exactly the same. Argus is exactly right. And even worse yet, depending on where you are, if you're in different elevations, baking gets all crazy. Baking is hard. Can I just say? Baking is hard. James Robert Clark III says, I fully agree. It's difficult to make progress at multiple martial arts simultaneously. 100%. One of the things that I think about that kind of targets a different thing, which is if you're starting a particular art, if you're starting, making progress in multiple things is really difficult because each coach, each instructor, each sensei, each whatever is trying to get certain things out of you to help develop you for the art that they're trying to teach you. They're trying to shape you into the proper vessel to pour their knowledge into. So when you start a bunch of things at once, it can be really interesting, it can be really fun, it can be really cool, but it also makes it really difficult because it's hard to develop your foundation when you're being pulled a lot of different ways. After you have a foundation, once there's a foundation involved, then the ability to graft on other martial arts and study multiple simultaneously is significantly easier. Still not easy, but significantly easier. Silverus Leonidas says, what do you think of borrow elements from martial arts to blend into your own, such as using certain fencing techniques with stick fighting? Ooh, I've got two different thoughts on that. First, blend. Do it. When it comes down to what you teach and what you pass on to people, you've got to decide that for yourself. Do you blend it? Do you not blend it? But when it comes down to for you, what you do and how you operate, I think that you are the culmination of the blending that you do. Then additionally, when you look at certain fencing elements with stick fighting, well, if you're talking Eskrima, the Philippines, there was a time they were occupied by the Spanish and fencing got integrated into that. The Eskrima, the word itself, is referencing fencing, right? So when it comes to those two particular things, I think they absolutely blend. Kevin Lee says, yes, this matches my training 100%. Speaking of Kevin's training, if you haven't gone over and checked out his YouTube channel and the stuff that he's doing over on Instagram, you need to. He has some of the cleanest videos when it comes to just looking at pure technique and the demonstration of it. It's just beautiful. Blockmaster Scott says, in today's day and age, I'm not sure it's possible not to blend martial arts. I think you're right. I think the time of arts being separate is long since gone. We have the internet now, and everybody's watching everything all the time. The idea of a pure art staying pure and not receiving emphasis, I think is long gone. Not to mention when it comes to a lot of these arts, the old arts, a lot of people don't have the answers. So they're reaching, they're seeking, they're trying to find what makes sense to them as the answer to the questions that they develop during their training. When that is the case, you will blend because you're seeking to fill that void. Slider X says, I like your term kenfu. I have something similar I use. I'm a Shotokan practitioner and instructor. My father is as well. Our last name is Mooney. Sometimes I do something he taught me. Someone will ask me where I learned it, and I will say it's Mooney Do. Now I have to see Mooney Do. So I hope that you are posting some videos and you need to tag me in that stuff. All right, you guys, Because Pro has a really great comment with a lot of really good information in it. It's a little bit long for this thing, so I hope that you go read it, but I'm going to jump to the end and I'm going to mention a part that I really enjoyed, where he says, I think you should start learning things separately, but facilitating the mixing together of styles is really important too, if you're interested in those applications. Also, using principles of one martial art to inform the teachings of the other is never a bad thing. Drawing some comparisons between the boxer's guard with their hands up and a jiu-jitsu player's guard with their legs might help inform the utility. I really like the idea of that, the idea of using principles from one thing to help establish concepts in another thing. At that point, it becomes they're teaching tools. Not necessarily teaching those different things, but using those different things as examples to teach the thing you're trying to teach. Again, go read the rest of this comment because there's a lot there that I think you should see. Mark T says, I teach Shitokan Shorin-ryu, a very traditional Okinawan art. As such, it's very Okinawan, eclectic, and open to mixing other ideas and techniques in that fit the basic philosophy and approach. We always make sure that we teach basics to our students, but from black belt on, you will find each instructor mixing in their unique viewpoints and ideas. The black belts are encouraged to explore and combine as they will within the guiding principles of our style. Thus, each black belt from 3rd Dan on is a unique personal reflection of the style, whom also pushes basics to the beginners. So this was a cool comment because I feel like it really goes with today's video, kind of the priority in making sure that you're keeping things in the context of your art. So that's really cool, really fun coincidence there. Scott Thompson says, I like the process of changing uniforms between classes to keep them separate in your mind, to remind you not everyone does every class. Thanks, Scott. I think it absolutely helps me 100%, especially with all different languages. If I screw up anywhere, it's going to be languages. I'm going to ask people to stop in Japanese when I'm teaching a Filipino art or something like that. That's probably the hardest part because changing clothes doesn't fix what language I use on stuff. And Marius Liger says, the separation of styles is very important for learning, but sometimes we use a little time for free fighting with the idea, use what is first, what comes to your mind. And sometimes it's Wing Chun, sometimes it's Eskrima, and with the words of my Sifu, it doesn't matter what you're doing in the moment as long as you get out of the dangerous situation. This is, I think, absolutely the culmination of what you're learning. At the end of the day, you do what you train, and you will not rise to the level of your expectations, but drop to the level of your training. And the more you train, the more you work those things. Those are the things that come out. So I really like the idea of use what is first, what first comes to mind, because you'll do that. And I want to add, if you don't like what is first, if the thing that comes up first is not something that you wish you were doing, then train it less than you train other things. Replace it. You're going to do what you do the most. So your training, your sparring, your fighting is going to show you where you're spending your time. And if you don't like that, you should fix it, and you fix it through your training. That's it this week, guys. There's a bunch of other comments. I wanted to make sure that I got to people that I haven't mentioned before on this channel. I hope you guys keep commenting and sharing this and get into these old conversations as well as the conversations on this video. And we'll do some more comments next week. That's it for this week. If you want to subscribe to this channel, you can do that right here. Don't forget to hit that bell. If you want a playlist of videos like this, they're right here, and a few more videos just like this one right here. I'm Ken, this is kenfuTV, and I'll catch you in the next one.